right, Assalamu alaikum. Salam, everybody. Welcome. Peace and blessings on everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Nihad Jasser, and I am the Vice President of the Association of Palestinian Arab Canadians, also known as APAC, but I always say it's the good one. So tonight, we were supposed to be joined by respected Indigenous elder Albert Dumont. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, he is unable to join us and shares his regrets. I want to begin by grounding us in place. I want to acknowledge that we are meeting on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. And as a Palestinian, I say this with a deep sense of responsibility. Our acknowledgement here isn't symbolic. It is an act of solidarity. It reminds us that the histories of indigenous peoples, whether here on Turtle Island or in Palestine, are deeply shaped by displacement, denial of rights, and the enduring impacts of colonial systems. To start our program, I'm very honored to introduce a local Ottawa performer, Maysaloon Hammoud, to sing the Canadian and Palestinian national anthems. I ask you to please stand for the anthems and encourage you all to join in.
Oh, Canada, our home, our native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. فدائي 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 يا أرض الجدود. فدائي 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 يا شعب الخلود. بعزمي وناري وبركان ثاري وأشواق دمي لأرضي وداري، صعدت الجبال وخضت النضال، قهرت المحال عبرت الحدود. صعدت الجبال وخضت النضال، قهرت المحال عبرت الحدود. فدائي 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 يا أرضي يا أرض الجدود. فدائي 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 يا شعب الخلود. بعزم الرياح ونار السلاح وإصرار شعبي بأرض الكفاح. فلسطين داري ودرب انتصاري، فلسطين طاري وأرض الصمود. فلسطين داري ودرب انتصاري، فلسطين طاري وأرض الصمود فدائي 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 يا أرضي يا أرض الجدود فدائي 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 يا شعبي يا شعب الخلود بحق القسم تحت ظل العلم بأرضي وشعبي ونار الألم سأحيا فدائي وأمضي فدائي وأقضي فدائي إلى أن تعود سأحيا فدائي وأمضي فدائي وأقضي فدائي إلى أن تعود فدائي 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 يا أرضي يا أرض الجدود فدائي 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 يا شعبي يا شعب الخلود. Thank you.
So thank you, May Saloon, for starting us with such a beautiful rendition of the national anthems. So, my dear Palestinian community and community allies, distinguished parliamentarians, ambassadors, and special guests, it is our privilege to welcome you all this evening. We want to take a moment to wish our Muslim community Eid Mubarak, with the day of Arafah being tomorrow and Eid al-Adha after that. May we celebrate our next Eid in a liberated Palestine. I'd also like to take a small moment to salute the Lebanese people on their anniversary, which is today, the 25th anniversary of the liberation of South Lebanon. So our theme tonight is Route to Justice. At a time when the pursuit of dignity and human rights remains urgent and deeply personal for Palestinians here and around the world, your presence affirms a shared commitment to a meaningful action to see justice being served. Justice for the tens of thousands of Palestinians being murdered in cold blood. Justice for the genocide being live-streamed before our eyes. Justice for the thousands of Palestinians forcibly evicted from their homes to make way for more land theft and illegal settlements. Justice for the men, women, and children held hostage in Israeli prisons where they are tortured, starved, and sexually assaulted. When we ask for justice, we are asking for more than simply recognizing the State of Palestine. Canada can no longer remain passive when the war crimes of the Israeli government are happening before our eyes. The time to take decisive action is now. The goal of our evening together is to shine a light on the steps we need to take in the pursuit of justice. The decor and the visual displays you see around the room both honor Palestinian culture while acknowledging the harsh realities of occupation that have come to dominate Palestinian life. Before we go further, I just want to take a moment to introduce AIPAC and provide an overview of our program. The AIPAC is a democratic, volunteer-led, not-for-profit community association based here in our National Capital Region. Our board members and membership are proud Canadian Palestinians, and our goals are to advocate for Palestinian human rights, to support our local community through social, cultural, and educational events. We are pleased that tonight we are able to share a program featuring remarks from community leaders, elected officials, including the Honorable Shafkat Ali, and a keynote address from Palestinian scholar Mu'in Rabbani. Just a reminder to please respect all speakers tonight by giving them your full attention so we can all fully appreciate and engage with the important messages being shared. If you need to take a phone call, we ask that you please do so outside the room. Also, the event is being photographed tonight, and if you'd not like to be photographed or filmed, please inform our photographers. Thank you. So now I would like to welcome AIPAC's President Walid Ibrahim on stage for opening remarks and to inspire us on key action items to continue our route to justice. Do you want this?
Thank you, Nihad, and thank you everyone for being with us tonight. Friends, we gather for the 10th annual Palestine Day on the Hill, and the first time that this event is taking place since Canada finally recognized the State of Palestine. We welcome this historic diplomatic shift and commemorate it tonight. But recognition alone will not resolve an increasingly despairing political and humanitarian crisis. Despite this milestone, and this being the 10th anniversary of the event, the tone of this evening remains reflective and pensive. Genocide in Gaza remains a reality. Gaza is no longer in the news, allowing for the further normalization of extreme civilian suffering. But tonight we must resist that normalization and remember what Palestinians in Gaza continue to live with today. Since October 2023, Israel has killed at least 72,000 Palestinians in Gaza. More than half of them are women, children, and the elderly, with 21,000 children killed alone. Among the dead are aid workers, aid seekers, health workers, journalists, and first responders. These figures do not include the estimated 10,000 Palestinians who continue to remain trapped under the rubble. Palestinians like my first cousin Ala, who was the youngest daughter of my uncle Mahir, affectionately referred to by her family as Lulu. Ala, her husband Bilal, their children, Muhammad and Amal, were trapped under the rubble of their apartment building where they continue to be today because Israel restricts the equipment to be able to recover their bodies. My story is not unique though. You would be hard-pressed to find a Palestinian in the room from Gaza who has not lost family members. Allah yarhamhum, may God grant them mercy. For those who survived, survival has meant unimaginable suffering. More than 172,000 Palestinians have been injured, nearly 43,000 of whom are now living with life-altering injuries, including amputations, severe burns, spinal cord injuries, and brain trauma. A quarter of them are children. And despite claims that conditions have improved since the ceasefire, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Since the ceasefire began, nearly 1,000 Palestinians have been killed and thousands more injured. While bombing has slowed, Gaza's humanitarian catastrophe continues as Israel restricts aid and maintains its 19-year-long illegal blockade. Families continue to face severe shortages of food and clean water. Malnutrition remains rampant, including among pregnant women and children. This, my friends, is a manufactured crisis, one caused by Israel's genocide and enabled by international inaction. But it is not only Gaza that suffers. In the West Bank and Jerusalem, Israeli occupation forces and settlers continue killing Palestinians with impunity, often in concert. Since October 2023, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank. 1 in 5 are children. At the same time, settlement expansion has accelerated dramatically. The current Israeli government has added 102 settlements to the existing 127. The result is massive displacement, at least 33,000 Palestinians unable to return home, and 45 entire communities displaced. As troubling as this is, it is not isolated. It is the continuation of a process of colonization that has continued for more than a century. So we must ask an uncomfortable but necessary question. How has this been allowed to continue? And the answer is clear. Decades of Western support for Israel have enabled these crimes with impunity. And that impunity fuels escalation and has emboldened an extremism we are now seeing on full display. When a senior government official marks his birthday with a cake celebrating a recently passed barbaric apartheid law mandating capital punishment by hanging, one hopes we are at a moment of reckoning where we finally draw a line. Third parties can no longer sit idly by as the unthinkable continues. We welcome that our government has increasingly condemned some of Israel's actions, including its treatment of civilians in the latest humanitarian flotilla. Many have seen the video providing a glimpse of how these illegally detained civilians, including 12 Canadians, were treated. As disturbing as those images are, they pale in comparison to the treatment of thousands of Palestinians held and routinely tortured in Israeli prisons. While statements of condemnation are welcome, we are well past the point of statements alone. Third parties have a responsibility to act, including Canada. After decades of shielding Israel from accountability and treating it as a friend and ally, it is time for Canada to fundamentally reassess that relationship. To advance justice, we must confront reality. A state accused of genocide before the International Court of Justice is not one we should shield from accountability. A state whose prime minister and former defense minister are wanted by the International Criminal Court is not one we should treat as an ally. And a state that every major human rights organization has concluded is practicing apartheid is not one that shares our values. Friends, I want to reflect briefly on a recent moment of national pride. When Prime Minister Carney spoke at Davos, his words resonated not just in Canada but globally, because he acknowledged the uncomfortable truth that the rules in our multilateral system have too often been applied unevenly. Nowhere is that clearer than in Palestine. At Davos, the Prime Minister articulated a strategy for our foreign policy that is both pragmatic and principled. If Canada is serious about applying that strategy, it cannot defend international law in one context while refusing to uphold it for a people living under occupation. To do so is to accept a reality where the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. Palestinians are not weak, but long-standing Western support for Israel's occupation, blockade, and displacement has left Palestinians vulnerable. With such a clear power imbalance, neutrality cannot be a shield for inaction. My friends, Palestine is the litmus test. Canada has an opportunity to lead simply by applying the rules consistently. If it does, it will not be alone, as many allies and middle powers are already moving in that direction. The route to justice is just ahead of us, and the first steps are clear. Firstly, it is high time that we cancel the Canada-Israel Free Trade Agreement. A state maintaining an illegal occupation and facing credible allegations of genocide should not benefit from preferential trade. The fact that settlement products benefit from free trade means we are part of enabling the occupation. We also call on the Canadian government to dramatically expand sanctions, not only on settlers or extremist ministers, but on the very institutions that enable settlements. As the E1 settlement project that effectively divides the West Bank in two advances, Canada must impose real consequences on those enabling irreversible harm. That includes preventing the sale of settlement land in Canada and revoking charitable status from organizations supporting violations of international law. Distinguished guests, I want to end with an appeal. This moment calls on all of us to do more. Recognition of Palestine was an important step, but it must now be followed by meaningful action consistent with international law, human rights, and basic values of equality and justice. To our elected officials, we ask you to continue advancing these principles within your institutions. Raise what you've heard and seen tonight with colleagues, ask difficult questions, and ensure Palestinian human rights are treated not as a partisan issue, but as a human one. The route to justice is long, and progress relies on people of conscience choosing to act with courage and principle when it matters most. I have faith that those in this room will be a part of that progress. Thank you for your attention and for being with us tonight. Merci, miigwech.
Thank you, Walid. Indeed, let us all rise to the occasion and push for urgently needed progress. Today, we are excited to introduce our next speaker, who is someone who has publicly spoken in support of international law, humanitarian action, and the protection of civilians in Gaza. As a member of parliament, Minister Shafkat Ali was among the liberal MPs who supported calls for a ceasefire in Gaza and recognition of the State of Palestine, while continuing to advocate for humanitarian assistance to Palestinians. During the most recent election campaign, he did not shy away from making his support for Palestinian human rights and the need for the government to take a firmer position publicly known. We are grateful for his presence here this evening and pleased to welcome the President of the Treasury Board, the Honorable Shafkat Ali.
Good evening, bonsoir, Tulma, and assalamu alaikum. Thank you, sister, for your kind introduction. As you know, my name is Shafkat Ali. I'm the president of the Treasury Board. I'm the member of parliament for Brampton Chinguizic Park. I want to thank the Association of Palestine Arab Canadians and my colleagues. My colleague, MP Salma Zahid. Yes. For having me and welcoming me to the 10th Annual Palestine Day on the Hill. It is also wonderful to see many colleagues here today, as well as the representatives from other parties. Today is a special day. As we mark the 10th anniversary of Palestine Day on the Hill, I, first of all, would like to congratulate everyone who's involved in organizing this beautiful event and historic event. This year's event carries a particular significance because less than a year ago, Canada's new government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Mark Carney, recognized the State of Palestine. Yes. And this recognition is an important step forward, one shaped by decades of hardship, resilience, and hope. Hope for the future where all people can live with dignity, respect, and peace. It also reflects the strength of Palestinian community in Canada and around the world, whose voices and advocacy help bring these conversations to the global stage. And today is also a reminder of the power of using that voice, the power of standing up for human rights, and the power of refusing to give up, and the power of standing up for what is right. In this room, we have members of parliament, senators, ambassadors, community leaders, organizations and staff gather here today. Each of you brings a different role, a different responsibility, and a different kind of way of bring the positive change. And when all of those voices come together with purpose and conviction, that is how real change happens. And it is through leadership, partnership, and sustained advocacy that meaningful progress becomes possible. I was reminded of this deeply a few years ago during our delegation's visit to Palestine. I met with children, families in refugee camps who had lost nearly everything, from their livelihoods to the sense of stability that many of us are fortunate to experience here in Canada. Yet, what struck me the most was not the devastation, but the resilience, the hope. I remember I met with this 13 years old who was detained for 4 months, had shot one finger. But the strength and resilience, that hope I saw in our conversation, I have never seen anywhere else. So that is a strength that gives me hope, and I'm confident that the right will prevail. Every moment underscored the determination of the people who, even in the times of profound hardship, continued to show strength, hope, and positivity. It was also inspiring to witness the dedication and hard leadership of staff and volunteers from organizations working on the ground, such as UNRWA, who work tirelessly, often at great personal risks, to provide relief, guidance, and hope to the people of Palestine. Their courage and commitment reflects the values of compassion, service, and standing up for those in need. That was a deeply moving experience for me. And as we mark the 10th annual Palestine Day on the Hill today, we must also recognize that there is still much work to do. Canada's recognition is an important step forward towards justice, but it is your continued unity, advocacy, and leadership that will help shape the future. So let's continue working together to build a future where Palestinians can live with dignity and freedom, and a future where families can live safely, where human dignity is protected and respected, and where hope is stronger than fear. Thank you once again for having me. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Shafkat Ali, for these great words of encouragement. Next, we are proud to welcome a longtime ally of the Palestinian cause and our partner for tonight's event. MP Salma Zahid continues her leadership as chair of the Canada-Palestine Parliamentary Friendship Group, helping to elevate Palestinian voices and advocate for their rights in Parliament. She has been a steady and trusted supporter of principled policies in Parliament, just recently taking a moral stand for her nonpartisan support of the No More Loopholes bill that unfortunately did not make it past second reading. Yes. She is a true friend to our community. Please join me in welcoming Member of Parliament Salma Zahid.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good evening, bonjour. Thank you, sister, for the introduction. And thank you to all of you for coming to the Parliament held today. As the chair of Canada-Palestine Parliamentary Friendship Group, it's a privilege to welcome you all here to Parliament Hill for our 10th annual Palestine Day on the Hill. It is really heartening to see such a strong turnout from the community and so much support for Palestine and for human rights from our members of parliament, senators, and other members of the parliamentary community. This event has been almost a year in the making, and every year is bigger and more impressive. Thank you to Waleed and all the volunteers at the Association of Palestinian Arab Canadians for all your hard work over many months to make this event such a success. Events like this need a lot of prep work behind the scenes, and I know when Waleed starts calling our office and starts visiting, it has been months that he has been along with my office on planning this event. So this year's theme, Route to Justice, highlights the deep connection Palestinians have to their homeland and the importance of dignity, rights, and belonging. It also reflects on the challenges of the dispossession and hardship, emphasizing the pursuit of justice must be shared by communities, allies, and policymakers working towards meaningful and constructive engagement. This is the first Palestine Day on the Hill, as mentioned by Honorable Shafqat Ali, my good friend and colleague, that since Canada recognized the State of Palestine, it is an opportunity for reflection on the progress made and on the work that remains to support peace, justice, and mutual understanding. On behalf of all the Canadians, I really want to thank the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Mark Carney, and his government for this important step and for his commitment to human rights and international law. Soon, we will welcome a new Palestinian ambassador to Canada, and I look forward to working with her and with the community here to raise awareness of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, for they share the same hopes and dreams as we all do. And I have myself witnessed that. The resilience which the Palestinian people have, I think no other nation in this world has. In January 2024, when I was in West Bank, I have seen the constant dehumanization of the Palestinian people every second of their lives. But they share the same hopes and dreams as we all do. The opportunity to raise their family and provide them with opportunity in a world that is peaceful and safe. So as we gather here tonight, I want to reflect on the treatment of civilians abroad, the Freedom Flotilla by Israeli security force led by Israeli Minister Ben-Gvir. These peaceful civilians trying to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza were abducted in international waters and subjected to horrific treatment. And it was posted on video by one of the government's ministers. This is the latest in the pattern of inflammatory rhetoric, mistreatment of civilians, and lack of respect for international law. Actions that heighten tensions or undermine human rights do not contribute to peace or security in that region. Canada imposed sanctions on Minister Ben-Gvir, including asset freezes and a travel ban last year in June 2025. However, he continues to serve in a senior security role in the cabinet of Benjamin Netanyahu. This raises serious questions about accountability and the response to conduct that is inconsistent with international humanitarian principles and international law. It is time for Canada to go further and impose strong, broad-based sanctions on the Netanyahu government as a whole as a consequence of its abuse of international law and human rights. Canada's support for human rights and international law must be backed by action. In recent years, we have seen a very worrying rise in incidents of hate, violence, and discrimination in Canada based on faith and political background. There is no place in Canada for such a behavior. Let us all today, as we gather, commit to working together to build a Canada and a world where we all live together in peace and harmony, where we honor our roots and commit to a better future for our next generations and the generations to come. So thank you once again, and I really want to thank all my colleagues who are here today to support the 10th Palestinian Day on the Hill. I am joined by Honorable Shafqat Ali, President of the Treasury Board and the Member of Parliament from Brampton Chinguacousy Park. Also, we have MP Danielle Martin, MP Samir Zubairi, MP Patrick Weiler, MP Faris Al-Sood, MP Aslam Rana, MP Chi Nguyen, MP Vanita Nathan, MP Ernie Klassen, MP Jeanette Lavac, MP Karim Bardezi, MP Seema Akin, MP Zoe Royer, and MP Gurbakhsh Sinai. Thanks to all my colleagues from the Liberal Caucus for your support and for your commitment to peace and justice. And we will also be hearing today from members and the Vice Chair of the Canada-Palestine Parliamentary Friendship Groups. And thank you for coming again, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Selma, for your steadfast support and allyship. I'd like to take a quick moment to please remind everybody to please respect the speakers as they speak. If you guys have to take a phone call, please take it outside. And just to make sure that everybody's awake, just to kind of, I'm going off script here, but if you guys want to know how to say free, free Palestine in sign language, who knows how to do it? Are you guys up? Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. There you go. All right. Yes. Maintenant, j'ai le plaisir de présenter un député qui a souvent pris la parole pour défendre les droits du peuple palestinien et le respect du droit international. Le député du Bloc québécois, Mario Beaulieu, a appelé à un cessez-le-feu permanent à Gaza et à une plus grande responsabilité face aux violations des droits de la personne. Nous le remercions d'être avec nous ce soir. Veuillez accueillir chaleureusement le député Mario Beaulieu.
Chers invités, chers collègues, Tout d'abord, je veux saluer et remercier les représentants de l'Association des Canadiens d'origine palestinienne et tous les organisateurs de cette 10e édition de la Journée pour la Palestine sur la colline. Au nom du Bloc québécois, je tiens à exprimer notre solidarité avec le peuple palestinien. Le peuple palestinien qui vit toujours une crise humanitaire intense. Les civils continuent à mourir. Les frappes israéliennes qui se poursuivent. Les tueries et la destruction des infrastructures se poursuivent presque quotidiennement. Selon le Haut Commissariat des Nations unies aux droits de l'homme, le cessez-le-feu conclu entre Israël et le Hamas a réduit l'ampleur des violences dans la bande de Gaza, mais les tueries et la destruction se poursuivent, tandis que les déplacements forcés en Cisjordanie atteignent un niveau jamais vu depuis des décennies. Les opérations humanitaires à Gaza continuent à se heurter à d'importants obstacles. Comme l'a déclaré François Blanchette, le chef du Bloc québécois, défendre l'État d'Israël est devenu un prétexte ignoble pour des exactions qui le sont autant. Autant de la banalisation de la peine de mort à l'expropriation violente, en passant par l'usage intempestif d'une violence excessive. On s'en prend désormais à des militants pacifistes, ce que le désaccord avec leurs gestes ne saurait en aucun cas justifier. Des sanctions supplémentaires sont possibles et doivent être envisagées. Le thème de cette année, Racines vers la justice, nous invite à reconnaître l'attachement profond d'un peuple à son histoire, à son identité, à sa terre, tout en mettant en lumière sa quête de la justice qui, bien que marquée par d'immenses épreuves, demeure portée avec résilience et dignité. Il faut se rappeler aussi les racines vers la justice. Ça vient aussi de la solidarité entre les personnes et entre les peuples. Alors, je salue humblement la résilience du peuple palestinien et son engagement envers la justice. Vive la Palestine libre. Merci.
Merci pour votre présence et votre appui à la justice. Et vive la Palestine. And now I am pleased to introduce the newest leader of the NDP, Avi Lewis. The federal NDP have been strong supporters of justice for Palestinians, and for that our community is deeply grateful. As a veteran journalist, educator, and activist with over 35 years of movement building experience, we know that Avi will be a strong voice for justice. For those who watched the NDP leadership debate CJPME hosted, you will know that Avi is someone who understands the issue and is ready to stand on principle. Thank you, Avi, for being with us here tonight. The mic is yours.
Good evening. Thank you for that very warm welcome. Bonsoir tout le monde. Assalamu alaikum. I didn't ever imagine I would speak at an APAC event. Thank goodness I'm at the right one. Come on, there was never any doubt. Come on, come on. I am very, very honored to be here at Palestine Day for the first time. I'm new, but the NDP is not new here. I bring regrets from Heather McPherson and Gord Johns, who had other commitments tonight. But Don Davies is here, Leah Gazan is here, Jenny Kwan is here. I would note despite the very nonpartisan nature of this event, that a strong majority of the NDP caucus is here. And I just left our office, where I bring you greetings from my brother Matthew Green, former MP from Hamilton Centre, whom I've just appointed our interim national director at the NDP. You know, the past year, particularly through the leadership contest, which was 7 months long, but also knocking doors in Vancouver Centre, where I ran in the last election campaign, I've spoken to thousands and thousands of Canadians. I think I knocked on 10,000 doors just myself in the last election. And I just wanted to share that, you know, when you knock on doors, particularly in an election, most candidates don't lead with the issue of Palestine. We talk about the price of food, we talk about the cost of housing, we talk about what we want to do about it. But without fail, when the issue of Palestine came up at door after door after door, Canadians are on board. Canadians want to see a free Palestine. It is my experience and my conviction that Canadians have been, like all of us, changed forever by witnessing a genocide in real time. It is a moral chasm that has opened up in our world. It has ripped away the veil from the pretense of international law and norms. And I think that Canadians just simply can't get over it. And we know that it is going on at this very moment, and it has never stopped. I think it is a majority, a supermajority of Canadians who feel in their hearts the depth of the suffering and the injustice and the unconscionable acts of violence against an entire people. It cannot stand. And the speakers before me are right. We have to do a whole lot more. I recently had occasion to speak to someone who worked on Zohran Mamdani's campaign in New York City. You can clap for him, that's fine with me. This was someone who was an organizer for Zohran and was recalling their very first door knocking in New York City, right at the beginning of that race. Zohran was nowhere, he was at 1% in the polls, nobody knew anything about what was going to happen. And I asked this person, when did you know that everything was going to change? When did you know that a political revolution was going to take place in New York City? And they said on their very first canvass, they went to public housing to talk to New Yorkers about a rent freeze in public housing. So the easiest doors in the parlance of door knocking. And they said that the issue of Palestine kept coming up and that everybody was moved and was so proud to see a candidate running who had a clear moral position on Palestine. And they knew on that day that they were going to win the election a year later, because this is the fundamental moral issue of our time. I think day after day, our conscience is aflame again. The treatment of the flotilla participants was shocking and shameful. It shouldn't be shocking at this point, but it was shocking, and Canadians are deeply disturbed by hearing of these accounts. And these very, very courageous people who say in interview after interview, nothing we experienced is comparable to what Palestinians have experienced day after grinding day of this genocide. And yet Canadians continue to be angry and shocked at the treatment of those flotilla participants. And we owe them a debt of gratitude for bringing this issue back to the forefront again. And they have our support. And I just want to end by saying I was interviewed by Mehdi Hassan the other day on Zeteo. Yeah, that's Mehdi Hassan for the white people here. And he pointed out that there is an anti-Zionist Jewish leader of the Green Party in the United Kingdom. There's a Jewish, progressive Jewish I wouldn't call Bernie Sanders anti-Zionist at this point in history, but an anti-occupation Jewish leader in the Democratic Party in the United States, and now Canada has a federal party leader who is an anti-Zionist Jewish person. And Mehdi likes to press his guests. I worked with him at Al Jazeera 15 years ago, and so I know that he wouldn't even let me off the hook. And he pushed me on the fact that polling shows that a majority of Jewish Americans and North Americans still strongly support Israel. And I felt that I had to correct him. I don't have data science, but I can tell you, as someone who was raised on the pro-Israel mythology and propaganda of our time, that most North American Jews are somewhere on the journey from the lies that they were told when they were growing up to the truth that they see on every screen in their life today. As a Jewish Canadian, I want to tell you that there are organizations that occupy a place in the political life of this country that do not represent us. And that just like all Canadians, Jewish Canadians have been changed by the last years, and so many more of us are ready to stand before history and say, "Free Palestine." Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Avi, for these wonderful remarks. We believe that under your leadership, we can count on the NDP continuing to be champions for justice, not just in Palestine. I'm now pleased to introduce our final speaker of the evening, Mr. Mouin Rabbani. He's our keynote speaker, and he came all the way from Montreal for us tonight. Mouin is a researcher, analyst, and commentator specializing in Palestinian affairs, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and the contemporary Middle East. He has, among other positions, served as Principal Political Affairs Officer with the Office of the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Head of Middle East with the Marty Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, Senior Middle East Analyst and Special Advisor on Israel-Palestine with the International Crisis Group, and researcher with Al-Haq, West Bank affiliate of the International Commission of Jurists. Rabbani is managing editor of Jadalia, where he also hosts the Connections podcast, co-hosts the Long-Form Conversations podcast, and edits its Quick Thoughts feature. He is also contributing editor of Middle East Report. His Gaza Apocalypse, Causes and Consequences is forthcoming from OR Books. We are thrilled and grateful to have him here with us tonight, and I please ask you to pay attention for him. Please join me in welcoming Mouin Rabbani.
Thank you very much. I also didn't expect to ever be invited to give a talk at an AIPAC conference, and I certainly didn't expect to be invited to give a keynote address at 10th anniversary of AIPAC's Signal event. So thank you very much for the invitation, for being here, and congratulations on reaching this important milestone. And being AIPAC, perhaps that's why you asked me to keep it short and sweet. On the 21st of September 2025, Canada formally recognized the State of Palestine. The Palestinian diplomat Afif Safia often remarked that Western states appeared undecided if the crisis in the Middle East is the result of one state too few or of one people too many. Israel, of course, insists the problem is one of one people too many. Over the decades, it has sought to resolve this issue by way of dispossession, occupation and annexation, and now also genocide. In recognizing Palestine, Canada has decisively rejected Israel's approach and made clear its position that there is one state too few and that the inalienable right of self-determination of the Palestinian people must be realized in practice. Canada's recognition of Palestine has been dismissed and at times derided as a purely symbolic measure that changes nothing. Yet, formal recognition of a foreign state is, of course, never symbolic. It is never a symbolic act. Whether or not it changes anything beyond Canada's official position is, of course, a different question. And to a significant extent, I think it is also up to us. This will depend, first and foremost, upon the extent to which Canada upholds and discharges its international obligations, obligations that, unlike some other states, Canada formally accepts. These obligations are neither general nor are they theoretical. They are clearly and very precisely spelled out in a series of International Court of Justice rulings, United Nations Security Council resolutions, International Criminal Court decisions, and more general principles of international law and relevant documents, such as the United Nations Charter and the 1948 Convention on the Punishment and Prevention of Genocide. These rulings and resolutions go back many decades. Among the most significant are those issued in the past 2 to 3 years. Thus, in July of 2024, most pertinently, the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, determined, and I quote, that Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful, end quote, and that, I quote again, all states are under an obligation not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the situation created by the continued presence of Israel in these territories. These are now settled matters of international law, pun intended. Any other statement about the status of Israel's presence in these territories and how states should respond to it is not only just an opinion, but from a legal and political standpoint, an entirely irrelevant opinion. At a minimum, therefore, Canada must refrain from any dealings with Israel of any nature, whether by its government, its private sector, or its citizens, that enable Israel to maintain its rule over the territories that it illegally occupies. Canada must seek, and Israel must provide, verifiable guarantees that any such dealings do not and will not contribute to the maintenance of its illegal occupation. A failure to seek or to obtain such guarantees therefore places Canada in clear violation of its obligations. And that is the bare minimum under the circumstances. In practice, this affects a very wide range of activities. It affects arms sales and arms and weapons deliveries, trade and investment, the participation of Canadian citizens in Israel's armed forces and its illegal settlement enterprise, the involvement of Canadian organizations, including tax-exempt charities, in Israel's illegal regime of occupation, partnerships with Israeli firms, organizations, and institutions whose operations contribute to Israel's illegal presence in the State of Palestine as recognized by Canada. These are but some of the specific obligations Canada is required to implement by virtue of its participation in the international system and recognition of that system's institutions. Canada's recognition only amplifies those obligations and responsibilities. Canada must not only respect international law, but also work to ensure respect for international law by other states. More broadly, Palestine today is not only the litmus test, and as previously mentioned, the fundamental moral issue of our time. It's not only the fundamental litmus test of humanity, rather, and the fundamental moral issue of our time, but it is also the canary in the coal mine of the norms and values that underpin the international system and of the institutions these norms and values have produced. A case in point is the International Criminal Court, which has come under sustained attack on account of fulfilling its own mandate and its own obligations. A number of its senior staff, including Canadian Judge Kimberly Prost, have been sanctioned by the United States and persecuted by Israel simply for fulfilling their professional duties. Permitting indicted war criminal and fugitive from international justice, Benjamin Netanyahu, to enter Canadian airspace to visit the government that sanctioned Judge Prost sends, I believe, a very wrong signal. Ultimately, this is about making strategic choices. Will Canada fulfill or will Canada neglect its international obligations when it comes to Israel and Palestine? Will Ottawa continue to embrace the double standards so evident in its differing approaches to Ukraine and Palestine, or will it hold Israel to the same standard as it does others? Does genocide still have consequences in the 21st century, or is the crime of crimes to be normalized because it is being perpetrated by Israel? This is ultimately about impunity and the priority of transforming it into accountability. Absent this transformation, Canada's recognition of Palestine will indeed remain ink on paper. Thank you. The time remaining for Canada to get on the right side of history, to respect and to ensure respect for international law and to do the right thing, in not only word, but also in deed, is rapidly diminishing. And history never forgets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'in, for your powerful words. Before we close our program, we have a quick surprise, as we'd like to quickly honor a couple of community members, seeing how this is our 10th anniversary of this event. So I'd like to invite Walid back to the stage.
Thank you, Nihad. We promise to keep this very short, as we're sure everyone would like to get back to enjoying food and mingling with one another, building connections. But seeing as how this is the 10th anniversary of Palestine Day on the Hill, we didn't want to miss the opportunity to honor community members who've given a tremendous amount and played a really pivotal role in the Association of Palestinian Arab Canadians history. And so first, I would like to invite to the stage Ami Munzer Zimmo, if we could ask you to come to the stage, please. We honor Ammi Munzir because he's one of the founding members of AIPAC all the way back in 1985. We want to thank him for playing such a pivotal role in creating a long-standing association that has done so much to preserve our culture and identity as Palestinians in the diaspora. We also want to thank you for your continued dedication to the well-being of our community and for being able to decipher AIPAC's incredibly complex bylaws. Thank you, Ammi Munzir, for everything that you do. Okay. Secondly, I would like to ask Ammi Burhan, Abu Osama, to come to the stage, please. Ammi Burhan is a former president of AIPAC. Actually, I'll give you a chance to get on stage. Ammi Burhan is a former AIPAC president that has tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, served Ottawa's Palestinian community with absolute kindness, humility, and genuine caring. When I first moved to Ottawa, Ammi Burhan was tremendously welcoming and made me feel like I was a part of the community right away. We also want to recognize that he is an architect of Palestine Day on the Hill and played a huge role in shaping the spirit and identity of the events as we know it today. Thank you, Ammi Burhan, for all that you do and all that you have done. Lastly, unfortunately, he is unable to be with us tonight, but we also wanted to honor Dr. Habib Khouri. If I could ask his wife, Rula, to come to the stage, please. Many of you know Dr. Habib and will know that before Palestine Day on the Hill took place on Parliament Hill, the event was called Just Palestine Day, and in fact, Dr. Habib was a founder of that event. On top of that, he is a former AIPAC president and continues to give a tremendous amount of his time and energy to support Ottawa's Palestinian community. Rula, if you can accept this on Habib's behalf.
So this brings us to the end of our event. We want to thank everyone for your attendance tonight and to thank all of our speakers. We want to particularly give a thanks to Salma Zahid and her team, especially Jeff Jadras, for partnering with us tonight. We also want to recognize our co-hosts, Mario Bolio and Avi Lewis, as well as Cabinet Minister Shafkat Ali, who showed up and showed their support for this event. A big thanks to those who have come from afar to be with us tonight. We have community members and allies that have joined us from across the country, from Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, Winnipeg, and more. To our sponsors, whose generosity made every detail of tonight possible. Our gold sponsors, Centrum Dental and Islamic Relief Canada. Our silver sponsors, Canadian Palestinian Professional Foundation, Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. Our bronze sponsors, Proactive Pharmacy, PharmaSave, Carlingwood Pharmacy, Vertex Team, Lions Estate, Arab Palestinian Association of Ontario, and the Palestine House of Toronto. Yes. A special thanks to our donors, Palestine Museum. I encourage you all to go on their website and see some of the amazing things they have. They're the ones who had the exhibit at the Mississauga Museum, and they've also just launched an exhibit in Venice. Amazing, amazing. Visualizing Palestine. Also, if you guys haven't seen that site, I encourage you all to visit and help them. They do some of the amazing work, some of the posters that you see and the videos that you see on screen. And our donors, all-in-one events for this lovely decor, Sultan Market for the delicious catering, Second Cup for the hot drinks, our videographer, Amar on IG, and our photographers today. Thank you all. Lastly, I wanted to acknowledge the APAC team for their efforts for making tonight happen. Walid Ibrahim, our fearless leader. Samar Ode, unfortunately she's not here, but thanks to her. Layan Ibrahim, I don't know where you are, Layan. Hassan, Hamid, and Sophia Atiyat. And I'd like to give a big, warm thank you to the incredible volunteers that made tonight happen. So a quick reminder, if you haven't yet explored the visual displays on both sides of the room, I please encourage you to take a few minutes to do so. We have the visuals on the right, well, my right, and then the visuals, there's some impactful projection mapping displays on the other side, over there in the corner. A big thanks to Mace Jude, who has resourcefully put this together, and I think it's a very impactful imaging that you guys can visit over there. And finally, a reminder, you may have heard of the exciting development of the Palestine-approved Nakba Past and Present exhibit, which will be shown at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights starting in June. Yes, this is a tremendous milestone, and we encourage all to visit Winnipeg. With that, our formal program is now complete, but we will have the hall until 9, so I encourage you all to use this time as an opportunity to build relationships so that we can all be effective advocates for a free Palestine.